Hi, my name is Lauren Martinez, and I'm going to explain how a fire extinguisher works. Now, most of us, since we all go to Millbrook, have seen the little metal containers on the walls that hold the red tanks, which are essentially our fire extinguishers. And those extinguishers themselves are called dry chemical extinguishers or ABC extinguishers. Now, the reason that they are called ABC extinguishers are because they cover the three different classes of fires. A class A fire would be wood, trash, paper. You know, paper comes from wood, trees. Anything caused by that fire extinguisher would be able to put out. A class B fire is anything that has liquids or gases. That's what that fire would be. And then a class C fire would be anything electrical or charged by electricity. So lightning striking something or power lines being down, that kind of fire, it would be able to extinguish. That's about how it works. It's called a dry chemical extinguisher because it's a dry powder on the inside. And that dry powder would be monoammonium phosphate, which chemical formula is NH4H2PO4. And that will just sort of, once you start the extinguisher, it will shoot out that powder, which will smother the fire and cut off the oxygen from it. And oxygen actually aggravates fire, so it essentially will fuel it and cause it to expand and become more and more dangerous. And fire itself actually is a chemical reaction, and it's a combustion reaction. You know, we all remember combustion reactions from the first unit, which I know we all struggled with. All right. So in a combustion reaction, any substance that is flammable will combine with oxygen in the air, which is obviously the thing that aggravates it, to produce water, H2O, carbon dioxide, CO2, and lots of gaseous waste. And we all know fire is hot. It causes a lot of heat as well. That's part of a combustion reaction. It produces a lot of heat. So when you grab the fire extinguisher, there will be a pin in it which you have to pull out, and then when you press the handle will open up a valve, and that valve opens up a small area that has the propellant in it. The propellant's job is to push out whatever extinguishes the fire. So in that case, for the ABC extinguisher would be monoammonium phosphate. For an ABC extinguisher, the propellant would be compressed nitrogen. The nitrogen will be forced out of the tank and push out all of the dry powder so that it pushes it out of the nozzle. The nitrogen itself doesn't really have a purpose. It's just meant as the propellant. All different kinds of fire extinguishers have a propellant. Some of them have CO2 inside of them, just carbon dioxide pushes it out. There's no real purpose for it. It's just there to push out the actual thing that extinguishes the fire. All extinguishers work essentially in the same way. You press the handle, it opens the valve, pushes out the propellant, and then pushes out whatever extinguishes the fire. That's just normally how most of them work. In our case with the ABC extinguisher, it just pushes out that monoammonium phosphate. And monoammonium phosphate really just sort of, it doesn't really do too much with any reactions per se. It doesn't react with oxygen. It just cuts off the oxygen, essentially smothering it, which it covers the fire. It creates a layer, and then it blocks out all of the oxygen in the air from being able to do anything to the fire. So it'll just completely block it out. That's just normally how they work. There's not much else to it. They just press the handle, push it out the propellant. There's a lot of things that happen, obviously, with all the little bits and pieces, but essentially that's how it works.
I want to talk to you about, the Class ABC fire extinguishers. I'm here to talk about those last two classes out of the 5 classes of fire extinguishers, the Class D and the Class K/F fires. We're going to start off with Class D fires. Class D fires are fires involving combustible metals, and these involve things such as calcium, or what I'm going to be using in my example, magnesium. In a magnesium fire, magnesium reacts similarly to the way wood does, in the sense that it's all of the surface area has to be at its burning point before it will ignite. And so the magnesium in a fire, it burns at a very high temperature, and that's why you can't use most extinguishers to actually get rid of it. If you were to use water, the magnesium reacts with the nitrogen in the air to make magnesium nitride. And when you put it out with water, the magnesium reacts negatively with hydrogen, creating an explosion such as this one. It's about to play here. Yeah. So it's not the best thing in the world. It's definitely has its downsides. And so most people are going to be asking, what can you use to put out a fire such as this one? You're actually going to want to use sand. And what sand does is it smothers out all oxygen, and there's no air intake or exiting the fire, and it will completely kill the fire. In a fire as big as this one, they would just let it burn, because you just can't get that much sand on a building without completely crushing the building as well. Moving on to Class F or Class K fires. A Class F or Class K fire, sorry, I was getting ahead of myself, is a fire that consists of usually fryer vats. If you don't know what a fryer vat is, what they make French fries in at your fast food restaurants, or anything that they would fry in a commercial grade kitchen. And these consist of animal fats or vegetable fat oils, and these oils burn at a high temperature of about 340 degrees Celsius, and each fryer vat holds about 75 liters of oil. And so when these catch on fire, they burn for a very long time at a very high temperature. And so because of this, most fire extinguishers, actually there's only one type of fire extinguisher that can put them out, because they burn at such a high temperature that most things do not affect them. And so the type of fire extinguisher you would need is a wet chemical fire extinguisher, and its active ingredient is potassium acetate, which is able to put out those fires. Once again, it eliminates the oxygen from the fire, getting rid of all fire, and that's, overall just how fire extinguishers work. But yeah, that's the couple limitations to your ABC fire extinguishers, those last two classes. And yeah, thanks for watching.